And Prime Minister Mark Carney's first international trip. It's a quick visit, but jam-packed to strengthen Canada's ties with two of its closest allies, France and the United Kingdom.
Right after taking office, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney bypassed Washington and chose Paris and London for his first diplomatic visit. Why is that? And how does this impact the economy and national security of your country? One of the main reasons for this decision is the intense tensions between Canada and the U.S. over tariff policies. The Trump administration previously imposed high tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum, directly affecting Canada's industries. According to estimates, U.S. tariffs have reduced Canada's export value to the U.S. by over 10% in 2024. For a country like Canada, whose economy heavily depends on trade with the U.S., this is a shock. However, Carney and his government decided not to simply accept the status quo. Instead, they chose a different path, expanding relations with Europe and Asia. This not only helps reduce dependence on the U.S., but also creates new opportunities for the economy. The question is, could this be a strategic trade-off, considering that the trade war is far from over?
I want to ensure that France and the whole of Europe works enthusiastically with Canada, the most European of non-European countries, determined like you to maintain the most positive possible relations with the United States. Canada is a reliable, trustworthy, and strong partner of France.
This situation becomes even more complex when Prime Minister Carney raises concerns about the F-35 program, one of the most important defense cooperation projects between Canada and the U.S. Why is there controversy? Canadian officials have expressed concerns that the U.S. could use the kill switch software that can shut down F-35 fighter jets in emergencies, which would cause Canada to lose control over the fighter jets it has invested billions of dollars in. If the F-35 program is cancelled, it would create a shockwave in NATO relations. In fact, Canada's departure from this project could diminish U.S. military influence within the alliance, pushing allied nations to look for alternative options from Europe, such as France's or Germany's weapons systems. This is not just a defense issue, but also a powerful political leverage against America's allies. But instead of continuing to rely on Washington, Carney is rebuilding relations with Europe. In Paris, he met with President Emmanuel Macron and discussed not just economic cooperation, but also defense. During the meeting in Paris, Macron proposed a new collaboration between Canada and France on defense and technology projects worth $15 billion US, strengthening Canada's defense capabilities without depending on the US. In London, Prime Minister Carney also had discussions with UK leaders on financial partnerships and long-term strategies post-Brexit. This is a strong signal that Canada no longer sees the US as its only partner.
Arctic sovereignty is a strategic priority of our government.
Another hotspot in relations between Canada and the U.S. is the issue of Arctic sovereignty. With climate change accelerating the ice melt in the region, the Arctic is becoming a new battleground for resources and power. By 2050, it is forecast that the Arctic could hold about 30% of the world's untapped oil and gas reserves, making it a flashpoint for disputes between nations. The Ottawa government is being extremely cautious about this issue and opposes any actions it deems as infringing on its national interests. This growing tension is only exacerbating a relationship already affected by Trump's protectionist policies and economic and defense divisions. With all these changes, Canada-US defense relations are at a major crossroads. Canceling the F-35 contract could be a clear signal of a fracture in the defense partnership between the two countries. If this happens, other NATO nations may look to European alternatives. This could completely reshape NATO's defense structure and weaken U.S. leadership within the alliance. Trade collapses, education is dismantled, social welfare is slashed, and all of this stems from Donald Trump's policies. While America waits for solutions to inflation and economic instability, Trump is making things worse than ever. But the question is, Do Americans still trust Trump and the Republican Party after everything that's happening? Trump is turning America's allies into economic rivals, pushing the country toward a trade crisis. Trump raised tariffs on imported aluminum and steel by 25%, targeting major trade partners like the EU, Canada, and Mexico. The EU immediately retaliated, imposing tariffs on American goods, including cars, 20%, whiskey, 25%, and agricultural products, 30%. U.S. exports suffered massive losses, with American companies losing over $15 billion in revenue in the first year of the trade war. Economists warn that inflation continues to rise as consumers pay more for imported goods. The consequences? Consumer prices surged by 12% over 2 years. Thousands of manufacturing jobs were lost, especially in Midwestern states like Michigan, Ohio, and Wisconsin. Trump's approval ratings in agricultural states dropped by 9% as farmers faced retaliatory tariffs from China and Europe. Not only is Trump wrecking the economy, but he is also directly attacking the education system through unprecedented actions. Over 50% of the Department of Education's staff was fired, severely impacting federal programs that support schools. The Trump administration staged a fake security emergency, forcing employees to evacuate their offices, only to lock them out permanently. Funding for programs supporting students with disabilities was slashed by 40%, leaving 6 million children without necessary assistance. Low-income students suffered as well, with the school lunch assistance program losing 30% of its budget. Real-world impact. Public schools in Texas, Florida, and Ohio warned of budget shortages, leading to potential teacher layoffs and larger class sizes. Dropout rates among students with disabilities increased by 18% in just 6 months under the new policies. Former Department of Education officials spoke out. This isn't just budget cuts. It's a deliberate attack on equal access to education. Trump claims to love America, but his policies are pushing millions into crisis. Trump cut $880 billion from Medicaid, which provides health care for over 80 million low-income Americans. 70,000 employees at the Department of Veterans Affairs, VA, were laid off, despite 19 million veterans needing medical care. 7,000 employees at the Social Security Administration were fired, causing massive delays in processing retirement and disability benefits. The real impact? Over 4 million Americans lost health insurance within a year. VA hospitals in New York, California, and Texas became overwhelmed, with wait times doubling. People with disabilities now wait an average of 12 months for benefits compared to 6 months previously. A veteran speaks out.